What's going on, Dark Magical community, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I do have a couple of topics that I have been wanting to discuss on the channel for quite some time that kind of have to do with the technical parts of the game. So that is what we are going to be discussing on today's episode. What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. I would like to personally extend a huge thank you to everyone for joining me on today's episode. As I stated in the intro, today we are going to be talking about a few different topics that have to do of the technical aspects of the game that I have been wanting to discuss for quite some time, and we are going to go ahead and jump right into that. But before we get started, please make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe. Motivates me to make more YouTube videos, things of that nature, more gameplay videos, more Dark Magician content, things of that nature. So now that we've got that out of the way, we can go ahead and get started today. So our first topic for discussion today is going to be not acknowledging misplays. So this could actually be branched off into several subcategories when discussing this, but one of the main points that I want to get at is people often tend to kind of beat themselves up over a misplay, and while we have all misplayed when it matters, whether it be making it into the top cut of an event, whether it be a local event or a relatively large event, losing out on a prize due to your own misplay, misplays are not always a bad thing. And here is something that I want to really touch upon. And I would rather misplay and lose than misplay and win. And this will actually kind of branch off into our last topic of the day. But if I am misplaying and not knowing that I'm misplaying and still winning, that is only going to hurt me in the long run of my career, not only with the deck, but in the game in general. So if I am playing a card incorrectly, if I am missing a key part of the card, and I'm still winning, sometimes a power level of a deck is so great that you can win with it even if you are playing it improperly. There are several examples of this throughout the course of the game's history. I always say that a bad player can get carried by a good deck, but only so far. When you go from playing a 2 or 3, 4 round locals to going to play a 10, 11 round event, and you start to see the cracks in the system, I guess is the best way to put it. If you are not playing a deck properly, and you're going to start playing against people that are playing the deck properly, and there's nothing worse than playing a deck for X amount of time and then realizing that you have been playing the deck incorrectly the entire time. So always make sure that you acknowledge your misplays. If you did something wrong, what I tend to do is I carry a notepad with me whenever I go to an event. And full disclaimer, you are not supposed to note take during a match other than the tracking of life points and mandatory effects. But if I misplay, what I'll normally do is on the back of that piece of paper I kept life on, for that round, I will write down what I did wrong throughout that match, just so I can kind of have a record when I go home to analyze the event. Why did I perform how I did? Was it really games that I really had no chance of winning, or was it because of my own misplays that I ended up not performing as well as I had hoped that I would? So I do want everyone to try to keep track of your misplays. That way that you can get better and improve at the game. And also, sometimes people in Yu-Gi-Oh tend to have a what am I trying to say here? They tend to have a very monotone voice when it comes to telling you that you did something wrong. And sometimes I think that comes off as rude when they actually are trying to help you get better. Now, naturally, that's not the case for everyone, but sometimes you need to actually be able to listen and take constructive criticism, and it will make you a better player in the long run. Our number 2 topic for today is going to be the theory or the thought process of I will just play this card because it's good. One of my biggest gripes I have had with the game in the recent months is how lazy deck building has become since the release of the adventure package. And what I mean by this is it does seem as if a lot of decks are carried by that of hand traps, just Destiny Hero, Destroyer, Phoenix Enforcer, and the adventure package. I'm fairly certain that you could put those cards into any deck and find somewhat success with that. And I don't like the logic of I'll play this because it's good. I am very big into card theory and watching all these old videos with the old pros such as Patrick Hoban, Jeff Jones, Max Reynolds, and they always had good theory for playing cards. There was never a time when they said, I played this card because it was good. There are exceptions, like obviously playing Call by the Grave, because that card is insane. There is no other reason to play Call by the Grave other than the fact the card is just fantastic. But a lot of times I do feel as if people have kind of adapted this sort of skeleton for deck building that includes, like, your deck has to have 10 to 15 hand traps, it has to have the DP engine, it has to have the adventure engine, and then whatever 5 slots you have left over, you can play whatever you want to. And I don't really like that. So I think that when deck building, you look for interactions and you look for synergy when it comes to playing different decks and trying to really figure out the inner workings of those decks rather than just crutching on hand traps and Phoenix Enforcer, Adventure, things of that nature. So something that I've started doing is if I'm going to play a deck that does normally incorporate those cards, I will start out playing a very pure variant, oftentimes no hand traps, no adventure, no DPE, so I can learn the inner workings of the engine itself so I'm not crutching so much on those other cards. Because when the cards are down, sometimes it just comes down to you knowing the engine or the deck better than your opponent, and if you've been crutching on those cards, you are definitely going to be lacking in those areas. So our number 3 topic of the day is going to be one of my most hated phrases when it comes to this game, often hearing people say it, sometimes even including myself, and that phrase is, but I still won. So basically what this means is that you did something so substantial that it really should have changed the outcome of the entire game, but it didn't, and you still won. So at the regionals that I went to in Richmond a couple of weeks ago, I walked by and I heard some folks talking about how a guy did the Branded in Red play, added back the Despian Tragedy, made his Guardian Chimera, but forgot to search off of Tragedy, triggering the effect. So legally he should have searched the card, but I guess that neither player thought about it until the game was over. But I heard the guy saying, but I still won. And what I hate about this is, what if you hadn't have won? You know, what if you had been overanalyzing the game, thinking about, why did I lose? Why did I lose? This was a game that was practically unlosable, and not even acknowledging the fact that that one search made a big change within the outcome of that game. So a good example from my end was I did participate in the Easy Gaming Remote Duels tournament this past Thursday, which if you haven't known by this point, we do remote duels every Thursday. I'd like to have some of you guys come on, trying to grow the remote dueling community. But I played against one of my friends, Trinity, in round 1, and we're going into game 2. I'm playing Burning Abyss. Trinity is playing Eldritch, branded Eldritch, in fact. So Trinity starts off his turn doing Eldritch things and ends up activating Branded Fusion, sending the Necroworld Banshee, doing all this stuff. Well, basically ending turn with like a Mirror Jade, some traps, and a Zombie World. I managed to do some BA things and get through most of the board, but at the sacrifice of having a blank field. So in my main phase 2, I will activate, I think it was Alec, activate a Burning Abyss monster, special summon, normal summon Fiendish Rhino Warrior. And then there was kind of a long pause, and Trinity pointed out that my BA monster would in fact auto-destruct because of Zombie World being on the field. So immediately after seeing that, I was just like, I think I lose the game. But I ended up, I set like one face down card. I do believe it was a droplet, passing with just the Rhino Warrior. We grinded back a few turns, and I did end up taking that game and that match 2-0. But it did not feel like a true victory to me, because that substantial change from misplaying that badly, I do feel like should have changed the game back in Trinity's favor instead of resulting in me winning. So I never like to win if I am winning wrong. I do feel like I should get punished for making mistakes like that so I remember them, rather than saying the phrase, but I still won. And I found myself saying that after that match. I said, it's okay, I still won. And that's kind of what led me to want to bring this video to you guys' attention, and bring all of these different sayings and phrases and theories to everyone's attention, that we can all be better players if we just start acknowledging the fact that we are all humans and we make mistakes from time to time. All of the big name players, Pac, Patrick Hoban, Jesse Cotton, Andres Torres, all these guys, they make these mistakes just like we do. It's just often not noticed quite as much. I was watching Pac stream the other night from a few months ago playing Trap BA, and he forgot his SCARM search. And he pointed out on the next turn, he said, oh, I forgot my SCARM search. So it's everyone. So you definitely should never beat yourself up for this. Rather, you should actually keep track of this and keep up with it. That way you know what you're doing wrong, what you're doing incorrectly, and you can try to work and fix those issues that you're having, therefore making you and all of your friends into much better players. This is my goal. This is something I'm trying to work on myself, is not worrying quite so much about winning and worrying more about playing things correctly. Something else that I have talked about before on the channel is doing things also that are completely incorrect. There was a local a few weeks ago. One of my friends, Logan, was playing against a guy. Logan is playing Prank Kids. His opponent is playing Earth Machine. And Logan goes to normal summon a Prank Kids Roxy's, and his opponent accidentally left in an artifact Lancia and dropped the Lancia on the Roxy's, and Logan got OTK'd the following turn. So that is an example of winning by doing something wrong. Like, obviously you would never leave in Lancia against Prank Kids, but he did that, and it resulted in him winning, which sometimes that is just part of the game. But look for the ways that you win, what I like to call correctly within the game, instead of winning in ways like that. At the end of the day, both result in a win, and I guess if you're playing for a substantial prize, all that matters at the end of the day is you bring home the trophy. But in the long haul, I think that we can all be better players if we remember these tips and we just try to acknowledge that we all mess up sometimes and that we can get better from it if we just acknowledge that we do mess up. So that's it for today, guys. I hope that you all enjoyed the video. Once again, if you did enjoy the video, please make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Also, a big announcement. In the coming weeks, I'm going to start my audiobook series, where the first book in the series I'm going to be reading is the Road of the King book that Patrick Hoban wrote back in, I do believe, 2014, 2015. We will be reading that a couple chapters at a time. I've had a couple folks shout me out saying that I have a good voice for an audiobook, so I figured what better pilot episode than to start off with Road to the King by Patrick Hoban. So hope you guys will be on the lookout for that, and I hope everyone will enjoy that. Like I said, that will be coming in the next few weeks. So thank you all for watching. This is Mike from Dark Magical Gaming, signing out until the next one. Always remember, we all make mistakes.